There are questions yet to be answered about Watergate, the 18.5-minute gap in the one Oval Office tape. Didn't anybody think putting E. Howard Hunt in charge of the break-in was a bad idea, given that he tied directly back to the White House? But in our number one story tonight, the first two great still unresolved questions about Watergate are now resolved. When the burglars broke into the Democratic National Committee headquarters in 1972, rifled through the place, photographed it, planted listening devices, what exactly were they looking for? And did President Nixon order the whole thing or just inspire it in some way? John Dean joins me with his exclusive answers in a moment. He found all this during research for a new release of his 1976 best-selling memoir, Blind Ambition. In Blind Ambition, the updated edition, The End of the Story, John finds exactly how a Nixon desire translated into a break-in with a specific data target. From his book's text, Nixon, who played hardball politics, set in motion the activities that culminated with the arrests of people working for his re-election committee at the DNC. It was the quest to get the very information that Nixon had wanted and repeatedly requested that resulted in the bungled bugging and burglaries at the DNC. John Dean joins us now. It's good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Keith.
All right, we'll get to Nixon's direct role or an indirect role in a second, but cut to the chase first. What exactly were the burglars supposed to get?
Very clear, and this is based not on speculation, it's based on documents, tapes, both before the break-in and after, that Nixon's looking for one thing. He's looking for financial information to embarrass the Democrats. What he's learned, he's gotten a tip that there's a kickback scheme in Miami with the Democratic Convention. He believes this. He wants them to get dirt on the Democrats. He pushes this before, and there's only one place you can get this information, Keith. It's in the DNC. And so while he doesn't, I have no evidence that he gave a direct order to go in there. Right. He, in essence, put in play the only place you can find the information he was looking for was in the DNC.
And he had this assumption that political corruption equaled money, and therefore this was worth some investigation?
No, it's a little bit more specific than that, because what happened is he comes back from China. The ITT charge that he had settled an antitrust case with the ITT Corporation in exchange for a large campaign contribution. He's being battered with that after he gets back from Canada. China.
Yeah.
He's convinced that the Democrats are using this to try to hurt it and tarnish the centerpiece of his campaign. And so he writes memos on this and says this is a problem. They've obviously planned this. As it happened, that wasn't true. There hadn't been a corrupt settlement. So he's looking for something that he can use to counter this negative publicity he's getting that is tarnishing his centerpiece of his campaign, the China trip.
Was there a kickback scam going on?
No evidence of it. In fact, I can't believe that the man who was in charge of the antitrust division, a man named Richard McLaren, is not the type who would have ever settled an antitrust case for anybody if it weren't justified.
I gather your conclusion is it was a kind of Thomas a Becket thing. Who will rid me of these meddlesome documents, or these meddlesome Democrats in this case? But what do you think Richard Nixon expected would happen when he put out word that he wanted this information, and the only place you could find it was in the famous phrase, down here in Larry O'Brien's desk?
Well, I think you nailed it. I mean, he knew that if a little fishing, they might find some negative information. After the break-in occurs, while amnesia sets in at the White House as to who was doing what and when and why, occasionally Haldeman and Nixon slip on the tapes and acknowledge, well, the only thing that was worth anything in there was the financial information we were looking for.
Right.
So they recall it, they remember it, they know, but they try to, they forget obviously that they're being recorded, and they catch themselves and don't pursue these at great length. But I think, Keith, as more tapes come out and historians start looking for this, when they match up this information I've gathered, they're going to find even more of this.
And how did you gather it? Where did it come from?
Well, what happened is, what prompted it was I was falsely accused of ordering the Watergate break-in on a tip from my wife, who has no knowledge of Watergate whatsoever.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Mo, I promise.
And this provoked a lawsuit. The lawsuit went on for 9 years. I learned more about Watergate than I knew when I lived through it. And I also had a subpoena that helped surface a lot of information. And I thought, well, it's time to share this information, not only what the revisionists are doing and trying to write bogus accounts of Watergate, but also what Nixon knew and answer some of the unanswered questions.
So ultimately, Nixon is not guilty of foreknowledge of the break-in, or sort of guilty, or what is your conclusion in retrospect, knowing this?
I would say not guilty of ordering the break-in, very clearly demanding information that there's only one place you can get it, is when you go to the Democratic headquarters or inside the Democratic organization somehow.
So presumably the 18-minute gap on the tape is the last big one to be decided here. Is it conceivable that something about this is on that 18-minute gap, or?
It's possible, but there's just no doubt. There's a mystery as to what's in that 18.5-minute gap. There's no mystery to me as to why we have an 18-minute gap. There's only one guy I know
who can see it, can't you?
Right, who would take 8-9 times to get that machine to erase. It wasn't Rose Woods. It wasn't Steve Bull who had access to the machine. It was a man who barely could get the top off his medicine bottle when you had to push it down and turn it.
Play and record, play and I'm sorry to laugh at it, but this is extraordinary stuff, and it's so kind of you to share it with us.
Pleasure.
And this will be in the revised version of the book, correct?
It is in the revised version.
The re-release of Blind Ambition starts hitting some bookstores tomorrow. I can't wait. John Dean, great thanks as always. And
thank you, Keith.
Great to see you in the flesh, sir. That's Countdown for this, the 2,331st day since the previous president declared mission accomplished in Iraq. I'm Keith Olbermann. Play and record, play and record.